Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're jumping into the big ideas from Ram Charan's fantastic book, Leaders at All Levels. We're going to talk about why so many companies are in a leadership crisis and what a pretty radical solution actually looks like.
So right out of the gate, the book hits you with this. The stakes could not be higher. We're not talking about small hiccups in management here. We're talking about a full-blown crisis at the very top. And that turmoil, it ripples down through the entire company.
And look, this is not just a problem for the corner office. Charan makes it really clear that this leadership gap, this vacuum, exists at every single level of a company today. And the reason for it? Well, it turns out the traditional ways we've been taught to grow leaders are, to put it bluntly, fundamentally broken.
So let's start by diagnosing the problem, right? Why are the old methods, the ones companies pour millions and millions of dollars into, why are they failing to create the leaders they so desperately need?
And get this isn't just some consultant's opinion from the outside looking in. The data shows that fewer than 1 in 4 board directors believe their own company is any good at developing leaders. I mean, just think about that for a second. That is a shocking vote of no confidence from the very people in charge.
So, where's all this failure coming from? According to Charan, it's not a lack of effort. It's that we're relying on some really faulty conventional wisdom about what leadership even is and how you actually develop it.
Okay, and this is where things get really interesting, because Charan challenges everything with 3 pretty radical ideas. First off, not everyone can be a leader. It's a specific talent, not just a prize for being a top performer. Second, you don't learn this stuff in a classroom. You learn it by doing, by practicing in the real world and getting feedback. And third, getting ready for the top jobs, that requires these huge quantum leaps in complexity, not just slowly climbing up the ladder one rung at a time.
So that's the big question, isn't it? If the playbook most companies have been using for decades is just plain wrong, then what's the alternative? What are we supposed to do?
And the answer, the book argues, is something called the apprenticeship model. And believe me, this represents a complete ground-up shift in how we think about growing leaders.
The real power of this idea is right here in the definition. The key words you've got to notice are tailored experiences and acceleration. This is not a one-size-fits-all cookie-cutter program. It's about designing a custom path for every single potential leader.
And when you put the two side by side, wow, the difference is just night and day. On the left, you have the conventional way. Reactive. You spot talent late, you give out small promotions, and the boss is basically just an evaluator. But the apprenticeship model on the right is proactive. You spot potential early, you design these massive learning leaps, and you completely reframe the boss's role into that of a coach, one who's all about real-world practice.
Now, a huge piece of this is deliberate practice. And this isn't just doing the same thing over and over. Think of it like a pro athlete. They don't just play games, they run drills. It's about intense, focused effort combined with immediate, honest feedback. It's how world-class performers hone their judgment. And Charan says it's exactly how great business leaders are forged.
Okay, so the theory is great, but what does this actually look like in the real world? Well, the book gives us a perfect example through the story of a mentor named Bob and his protege Gary.
So it all starts with Bob, a senior exec who had this big realization. His most important job wasn't just to hit his quarterly numbers, it was to produce the next generation of leaders. And that philosophy, right there, is the engine that drives this entire model.
So check out Gary's career path here. It is not a straight line up. Not at all. Early on, Bob gives him that first big leap into a P&L role. But then look at this, a strategic step back. A move to Japan that on paper looks like a demotion by title, but it was designed to set him up for his next giant leap into a CEO role. Every single move was custom built by Bob to stretch Gary in a totally new way.
This quote from Bob just says it all, doesn't it? When Gary was worried that the Japan job was a step backward, Bob completely reframed it for him. The value wasn't the title, the value was the stretch. It was the unique challenge, the learning opportunity. And that is a completely different way to think about a career.
All right, so the story of Bob and Gary is great, but what about us? How do we actually make this work for ourselves?
Let's try to make these ideas really actionable, whether you're trying to grow your own career or you're the one in charge of developing other people.
It all really boils down to this question. How do you shift from that passive mindset of just climbing the ladder to a really active developmental one?
So if you're an individual, the advice is simple. Take ownership. Stop waiting around for someone else to plan your career. You've got to actively hunt down those tough P&L jobs, the ones that teach you how a business actually works. And maybe most important of all, start looking for jobs that stretch you, not just the next fancy title.
And for the company, or for you if you're a manager, the advice is just as clear. Make developing people a core part of every boss's job and actually reward them for it. Shift your thinking from just filling empty boxes on an org chart to creating the perfect jobs for your rising stars. And please, have real, candid conversations about talent, not just check-the-box performance reviews.
You know, in the end, it all comes back to this one incredibly powerful idea from the book. The ultimate measure of a leader isn't just their own success. It's whether they built a pipeline of great leaders to come after them.
And that really leaves us with one last thing to think about. This whole model challenges us to stop thinking about our careers as some kind of predictable ladder. So I'll just ask you, are you just waiting for your next promotion? Or are you out there, right now, creating your next leap?